I was 3 feet away when those eyes snapped open. Not the slow flutter of waking, instant, total awareness. I'd been crouched there for maybe 20 minutes, camera in hand, documenting what I thought was just an unusual rock formation in the cave. Then the rock breathed. Then it shifted. Then those massive amber eyes locked onto mine with an intelligence that froze every muscle in my body. My finger was still on the shutter button. The camera was still recording. And in that eternal second, I understood. This thing had been awake the entire time, watching me through barely cracked eyelids, deciding whether I was a threat or prey. My name is Robert Mitchell. I'm 68 years old, and I spent 42 years as a wilderness guide in Washington State's Cascade Mountains. I've led hundreds of expeditions, rescued lost hikers, tracked wounded animals, survived 3 bear encounters, and 1 lightning strike. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for what happened on September 23, 1987. I was 31 then, young, confident, maybe too confident. I'd been guiding in the Cascades for 8 years, and I thought I knew every trail, every valley, every hidden corner of that wilderness. The mountains were my home, my church, the only place I truly felt alive. That September, I was solo camping in a remote section of the North Cascades, about 40 miles from the nearest road. No trails, no other humans for days in any direction, just me, my gear, and the wilderness I loved. I was documenting geological formations for a freelance article, extra income during the slow season. The magazine wanted photos of unusual rock structures, caves, anything interesting. Simple work, easy money. The morning of the 23rd was perfect. Clear sky, temperature in the 50s, that crisp mountain air that makes you feel invincible. I'd been hiking since dawn, following a ridge line about 6,000 feet up. Around 10 a.m., I noticed something odd. A game trail, elk probably, that branched off toward a rocky outcropping I hadn't explored before. The geology looked promising. Lots of exposed stone, possible cave formations. I followed the trail. It wound through dense Douglas fir and western red cedar, then opened into a small clearing maybe 30 yards across. And there, set into the hillside, was a cave entrance. Not huge, maybe 8 feet high, 10 feet wide, but deep. The opening descended at an angle into darkness, promising. I checked my gear, flashlight, backup flashlight, camera with flash, rope, first aid kit, everything I needed. I'd explored dozens of caves. This was routine. The entrance was partially obscured by brush, salmonberry, and ferns growing thick. I had to push through. Once past, I noticed something strange. The brush wasn't random. It was arranged, almost like someone had placed it deliberately to hide the entrance. Nature doesn't arrange things. Animals don't, either. But sometimes rock slides create patterns that look intentional. That's what I told myself. Inside, the cave opened up. My flashlight revealed a chamber maybe 20 feet wide, 15 deep, with the ceiling dropping from 8 feet at the entrance to about 6 feet at the back. Perfect, natural shelter. But it was what covered the floor that stopped me cold. Bedding, not animal nesting, bedding. Cedar bark stripped and laid out in deliberate layers, moss piled in specific areas for cushioning, ferns arranged on top, creating something that looked disturbingly like a mattress, and in the back corner, what I'd initially taken for a large boulder covered in moss and lichen was actually a massive mound under the bedding material, roughly human-shaped but way too big, 7, maybe 8 feet long, 3 feet wide at the shoulders. My heart started hammering. This wasn't right. This was something else. I should have left then. Every instinct screamed at me to back out quietly and never return. But the scientist in me, the documenter, the curious fool, had to know more. I moved closer, slowly, carefully, camera ready. 5 feet away, I could see the mound was breathing, rising and falling rhythmically. Something was sleeping under those layers, 4 feet. I could smell it now. Musky, but not unpleasant. Wild, organic, like cedar and earth and something ancient. 3 feet. I raised my camera, started taking photos. The flash seemed deafening in the enclosed space, but whatever was sleeping didn't react. Click, click, click. I documented everything, the bedding, the arrangement, the sleeping form. Then I made my mistake. I wanted a close-up of what I thought was the head area. I leaned in, zoomed the lens, pressed the shutter. The flash fired. And the eyes opened, not slowly, not groggily, instantly. Amber eyes, huge, intelligent, alert, staring directly at me, and I realized, with a terror so complete it emptied my lungs, that those eyes had been cracked open the whole time, watching me. This thing had been awake, lying perfectly still, observing every move I made. We stared at each other, me frozen, it unmoving under its covers. 5 seconds, 10. A year compressed into heartbeats. In that moment I noticed details my terrified brain shouldn't have been able to process. The way its chest rose and fell with measured breaths. Too controlled, too deliberate for genuine sleep. The slight tension in the massive shoulders I could see outlined beneath the bedding. The fact that those amber eyes weren't wide with surprise. They were focused, alert, watchful. This wasn't a creature startled awake. This was a creature that had been monitoring me, perfectly still, waiting to see what I would do. How long had it been awake? Since my first flash? Since I'd entered the cave? Had it heard me outside pushing through the brush? The intelligence in those eyes suggested it had known everything, every step I'd taken, every photo I'd snapped. It had let me violate its space, document its home, come within touching distance of its sleeping form, not because it was unaware, but because it was curious, or patient, or perhaps calculating the exact moment to reveal itself for maximum effect. My camera hung heavy around my neck, the evidence, the proof. Right there in that moment, part of me was still thinking, get one more shot, document this. This is the discovery of the century. But another part, the part connected to millions of years of prey instincts, was screaming, you're in a predator's den and you've been caught. Then it moved. The bedding exploded upward in a cascade of cedar bark, moss, and ferns. A massive form erupted from beneath, rising to its full height in one fluid motion that was terrifyingly graceful for something so enormous. I stumbled backward, my boots slipping on loose stones. I went down hard, my tailbone striking rock, pain shooting up my spine. My flashlight went flying, clattering against the cave wall. The camera strap jerked against my neck as the camera swung wildly, and for a horrible second, I thought it might strangle me. In the chaos of bouncing lights and shadows, I saw it fully revealed for the first time. 8 feet tall, maybe 8.5. It was hard to judge as it stood slightly hunched beneath the cave's sloping ceiling, covered entirely in dark brown hair, not fur like a bear's, but actual hair, thick and shaggy, hanging in natural patterns that moved as it breathed. The chest was massive, barrel-shaped, suggesting lung capacity beyond anything human, shoulders broader than any man's, broader than any gorilla I'd seen in photographs, arms reaching nearly to its knees, proportioned wrong for a human, but perfectly suited for whatever life this creature lived. The hands, God. The hands were huge, easily twice the size of mine, with thick fingers ending in dark, flat nails. The head was distinctively shaped, cone-like with a pronounced sagittal crest, running from front to back along the skull, similar to a male gorilla, but more pronounced. The face was remarkably flat in profile, almost human in its proportions, but with heavy brow ridges that cast shadows over those amber eyes. Wide, flat nose with large nostrils that flared as it breathed. Smelling me, I realized, processing my scent, identifying me. The jaw was heavy, but not protruding like an ape's, and the expression, there was an expression, emotions playing across features that shouldn't have been able to show emotion. It was a Sasquatch, Bigfoot, the cryptid, the myth, the legend that scientists dismissed and hunters sought, and indigenous peoples spoke of with respect and caution, standing 10 feet away in a cave in the North Cascades. And it looked supremely annoyed. A sound came from it. A roar? A vocalization? Something between deep and resonant, vibrating in my chest. A warning. Clear as day. Get out, now. I scrambled backward. My hand found the flashlight. I grabbed it, never taking my eyes off the creature. It took a step forward. I could feel the ground shake. This thing was massive, powerful, could break me without effort. I reached the cave entrance, bright daylight behind me. The creature stopped, squinted against the light, and I saw something unexpected in its expression. Not just anger, not just threat, annoyance. Like I was an intruder who'd woken it from a nap, a nuisance. Not a threat to it. It was a threat to me, and it knew that. "I'm sorry," I gasped. "I'm leaving. I'm going. I won't come back. I promise." It tilted its head, studying me, those amber eyes calculating, intelligent. Then it did something that still haunts me. It gestured, a deliberate motion with one massive hand, pointing at me, then pointing emphatically toward the cave exit. The meaning was unmistakable. Leave and don't return. I left. Scrambled through the brush, ran through the clearing, didn't stop until I'd put half a mile between myself and that cave. Only then did I collapse against a tree, gasping, shaking, my mind trying to process what had just happened. I'd found Bigfoot. I'd photographed it sleeping. I had proof, undeniable proof. The camera around my neck contained images that would change everything. I spent that night in my tent, barely sleeping, replaying every second. By morning, I'd made a decision. I hiked back to civilization, developed the film, and sat in my apartment staring at 24 photographs of the impossible. The bedding was clear, the cave was visible, and in 3 shots you could see the form under the covers. One photo, taken at the moment the eyes opened, showed them clearly. Amber, intelligent, undeniably real. I could publish these, become famous, prove Sasquatch existed, make a fortune. But I kept thinking about that gesture. The creature pointing at me, then at the exit, not attacking, not charging, communicating. Telling me politely but firmly to respect its space and leave. It had shown me mercy. It could have killed me easily. I was in its home, vulnerable, alone. It had every right to defend itself, but it chose communication instead of violence. And I thought about what would happen if I published the photos, the expeditions, the hunters, the researchers, the media circus. That cave would be overrun within days. The creature would have to flee, or worse, what if someone heard it, killed it, captured it? I'd violated its privacy already, invaded its home, stolen its peace. Did I have the right to destroy its life for my gain? For 3 weeks I agonized. The photos sat in a drawer. I told no one. Then I made my choice. I burned them. All but one, a single photo of the cave entrance. No creature visible, just proof for myself that it had been real. I never went back to that cave. I guided in the Cascades for another 35 years, and I gave that area a wide berth. I never told clients what I'd seen, never led expeditions there, protected that space as best I could. Over the decades, I've wondered, is it still there? Did it move? Did others of its kind live nearby? I'll never know. But sometimes, deep in the wilderness on solo trips, I'd catch a glimpse of something moving between trees, or find footprints too large to explain, or hear vocalizations that didn't match any known animal. And I'd smile, because I knew they were still out there, still surviving, still living in the hidden places we hadn't ruined yet. I'm 68 now. Retired, living in a cabin outside Bellingham. My guiding days are behind me, but that morning in 1987 shaped everything that came after. It taught me that the world is larger and stranger than we admit, that intelligence comes in forms we don't expect, that sometimes the greatest discovery is knowing when to keep a secret. That creature in the cave had every reason to hurt me, But it chose understanding instead. It gave me a chance to leave peacefully. And by doing so, it showed more humanity than many humans I've known. I kept my promise. I never went back. I never revealed the location. The photos are gone. That one remaining image, just a cave entrance, sits in a safe deposit box. It'll be destroyed when I die. No clues, no map, no way for anyone to find it. Because some things deserve to remain mysterious, some beings deserve their privacy. Some secrets are more valuable than fame. I stumbled upon Bigfoot's resting place in 1987. When its eyes opened, I saw intelligence, awareness, and mercy. It could have ended me. Instead, it asked me to leave and taught me the most important lesson of my life: respect, restraint, and the wisdom to know that not everything needs to be revealed. If you're reading this and you're planning an expedition to find Bigfoot, I'll tell you what I learned. They don't want to be found. They've been avoiding us for thousands of years. They're smarter than we give them credit for. They know what would happen if the world proved they exist. So, if you're lucky enough to encounter one, do what I did. Look, remember, learn, and then walk away. Let them have their forests, their mountains, their hidden places. Because in a world where we've documented, cataloged, and claimed everything else, maybe, just maybe, we can leave one mystery unsolved, one species unconfirmed, one secret kept, for their sake and for ours.